Hey hobbyists, I'm just going to make a quick video today about repackaging my GW paints. Now, it's something I spent several hours doing over the last couple of days, and for anyone that doesn't know, GW paints come in these little paint pots, and I'm putting them into these little drop bottles. Now, for a very long time, I used the Citadel pots because that's what I was used to. It was fairly convenient, getting them out of the pot, putting them on the pallet, but there's a few issues. Around the lip of the lids, they'd always get some dried paint in there. It was very annoying. You have to clean it out with a sculpting tool. That was at least what I was using to dig in and get out all that annoying dried paint. And sometimes your paint would dry out, or the quality of Citadel paints would get a bit. Some people refer to it as mud, which for certain paints it's pretty accurate. Some paints are thinner than others, and yes, there's a bit of a variety thing. And the washes and textures, there's different types of paint. Anyhow, so I'm going for these dropper bottles. They won't have the issue of the paint drying around the lid. They'll keep the paint a bit nicer. And when I transfer them over, I can add a bit of water or lamy and medium, thin them out a bit. Now, I won't be transferring all my paint collection into these, just certain ones. I won't be transferring textures, washes. I'm just throwing out the glazes because I never use them. Technical paints, also not going to really transfer those over. Also, some of the GW's paints, like it was Avalanche Sunset. Yes, Avalanche Sunset. Rubbish. Same as Mechrite Red, Scar White. They're all rubbish and they are not going to get transferred. Instead, I decided to grab some new things by Vallejo Model Color. This is just my matte varnish, but yeah, it's going to be a mixture of old GW paints and repackaged, and some of the Vallejo stuff. So this video is going to quickly show you how I did that and what I learned about doing that. Okay, so this is my setup for the changing over of paints from pots to drop bottles. Now, the thing about this is, these are my tools. I got my craft knife here, which I use for cutting the label off this old bottle, like so. So that way I've still got the label from the Citadel pot, and now it's on my dropper bottle, and it's just stuck on with, some adhesive that you can easily peel off, and then reattach to the dropper bottle. And if you screw up the label a bit, or you sort of dog-ear the edges of it, you can just very easily smooth it down with a bit of PVA, super glue, depending on what you want to do. So there we go. Pull off this bit, rip the top off. Shout out to Modifix for these drop bottles, they're great. Alright, now these pots, flip them open, they're like that. Now, I'm not going to use these pots for anything else, not for modeling, not for storing or anything, and just, it's far easier without this annoying lid. So, take the craft knife, quickly cut those hinges. Don't cut yourself, that's very important. And now it's much easier to access them. Now I tried sculpting tools, brushes, I tried various things for sort of getting the paint into here. This is wide enough that you can just carefully pour right in, and I use the paint spread to scrape most of this out. And then for getting the last few bits and adding some water, I've got this brush and some clean water off screen. Alright, so going in like so. And this will take a while, might edit that out in post. Some people who have been at my channel before might think, hey, you didn't make videos for years and now you've come back and you're making them regularly. Well, I've suddenly got a lot of free time on my hands. I've got a decent HD webcam, although I've had that for a few years anyway. And I taught myself how to use Windows Home Movie Maker. I'm very late to the game, yeah, of course, but I was very busy for those few years doing uni, and I just wasn't enthusiastic about making videos. But people were still viewing my old videos, even though they were rubbish. So I decided that, I should, get my act together, get motivated, and do some more. And, so this is what I've been doing. Now, this might look like we've got a bit of airlock going on. That's perfectly normal. Fortunately, the surface tension and the thickness of the paint tend to keep it in where it needs to be. But a paintbrush with a bit of water you can push through, and you'll see some air bubbles, and it all goes through without spilling much, if any. If you do spill it, it's not the end of the world. Just be careful, and the surface tension and gravity will get it all into the pot as you want. Just going there, straight, brush around. some of these Citadel paints, like I said, they're mud, so a bit of water added to them is no issue. They'll flow better, they'll work better, they'll move around in the bottle more easily for you. I'm just going to put a bit of water in there. I am using clean water. You can't see it, but off screen, my water is quite clean and recently changed it. And with such a huge amount of pigment and doing a full pot, a little bit of contamination from other things isn't going to be an issue. When I was doing loads of these changeovers at a time, I had a pot of clean water that was just for diluting and washing out, and then I'd wash everything in this big, dirty, great pot over there. Now, you might be thinking, oh, you got all that paint in the brush, you'll ruin your brush, it's your wash brush, and all that paint's going to the ferrule, and it'll dry out and expand and kill the bristles or choke them out and ruin your brush. Well, yes, that's why I'm using an old wash brush that isn't that important to me. But there's a way of preserving brushes, even if they've been pretty horribly treated, like I'm treating this one right now. You just get a piece of blue tack or a clothes peg, stick them on the side of your water pot upside down in the water for a couple of days, and the water soaks right up into the ferrule, gets to the paint, and you run it through some brush preserver like this, and that actually fixes it up really well. Some old rubbish brushes that I have thrown out or were going to throw out actually came out pretty well after doing that. And it doesn't have to be like 3 days, you know, just several hours, a day, a couple of days, and usually that's enough to wash out stuff. And I am washing this brush right after every changeover, so it's not that big a deal. And yes, this process takes a while, but there are quite a few benefits to doing this. I already mentioned some of the cons about using the Citadel pots. These, you know, the paint will stay moist. It's more convenient to use. It's less likely to have spillage or spillage issues or getting into the lip or the lid of the pot, like with the Citadel ones. There's none of those issues with these droppers. Just got to make sure you have them on fairly tight. Otherwise, if you have the dropper thing loose, then you will have issues of the paint getting up and under the lid. Whereas with the Citadel pots, didn't matter how tight you had those lids on, the paint was getting into those lips no matter what you did. So it's one good reason to switch over the sort of packaging. Now, I probably won't be buying more Citadel paints. I'll probably change to Vallejo range. But this is a good sort of stopgap measure or solution for me, because I didn't want to throw out hundreds of dollars worth of paints and such. And it made me, prioritize which paints I was going to change over, because I only had so many of these Modifix dropper bottles. And so I sort of thought, well, hang on, which of these paints do I never use? And so those ones will not be getting changed over and will not be used in future. Because it's actually quite easy to mix paints yourself. I do that because I'm a bit cheap, I guess, but some people, they like all the premixes. I like premixes myself for certain ones that I use a lot. Ones that I don't use very much, namely some of the browns and yellows and stuff, I'll just mix, bleached into Rhinox hide. I mean, all these new color names. Screaming Skull into Rhinox hide. Or I'll mix a bit of, what is it called now? Fenrisian grey into blues, or even reds or purples to lighten them. You could always use white if you really want, but I think Fenrisian grey gives you a bit of a nicer lightening for some of these colours. Anyhow, that's going pretty good. You can also mix Screaming Skull into Corn Red to lighten that, give you less of a bright red colour. That's something I do. Because you're always trying to sort of push the envelope, get more colours from your range of paints you have without going out and spending $8 or however many dollars on more pots of paint and more ranges. Now, yes, this is roughly how long it takes you to switch a pot over to a dropper. It does take quite a while. It's quicker with metallics, particularly the new pots of metallics. Very smooth. They flow really nicely. If you were transferring washes, which I wasn't going to do because with the washes, it's just easy to stick the brush into the pot, and there's less issues like there are with some of the paints being too thick. So washes would transfer even easier. Just pour it right in, no worries. You won't even have all these airlock issues that you're seeing that I'm having. I might be thinking, oh, that's the third or fourth load of water you've put in the paint pot. This paint's gonna be far too water. It's like, no, it's not. It was too thick to begin with, and you can just put on the palette and wait for a while for it to dry, because yeah, when I've heard people talk about Citadel paints compared to others, it's mud is actually quite an accurate description. And you know, some people might use a wet palette. I've never really used a wet palette. That might be something I'll look into in future, but until then I'm just going to use these paints, and I'll water them down or let them dry out as I see fit to give me the consistency I want. Some people say you use paint that's the consistency of milk. I really don't. I'm a bit lazier. I tend to go in with a bit thicker paint than that. Like, I still water them down a little bit, or you know, depends on the job. Like, thick paint's gonna, you know, be a bit chalkier in its finish or a bit more obscuring of detail. Thinner paint's less obscuring of detail and can do some pretty good things. Like, you can sort of turn a paint into a wash and get some fairly nice blending or shading effects like that. Yes, that's just some of the stuff you do with your sort of consistency of paint. I've had some other thought, but I'm losing them. I guess this video's taking too long. So yeah, that's how I'd switch the paint thing over. There's not much left in the pot, as you can see, so that's going to be going into the rubbish. Just put my paint spreader that I've already used. I can probably get a little bit of paint off of that. Just a little, but you know, better than nothing. There we go. And put the paint spreader in the water pot. Stick that wash brush on the blue tack so it can soak for a while to clean out. Pop this thing back on. It's going in the recycling. I don't know, I'm environmentally conscious or something. There we go. You got a little bit of paint around the edge there. That's not going to be an issue. Just take your cloth, wipe it off like so. So yeah, I tried just a brush and just a sculpting tool to try and transfer paints before, but I find the paint spreader and brush is usually the way to go for moving the paint and then getting a bit of water in. There's just a little bit of plastic flash on the tip of that dropper bottle, so I'll just trimming that off there. Put this thing on. So get to a point where you feel it's as tight as it can go. And voila, repackaged GW paint. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was very informative. I think I already said shout out to Miniature Scenery and Modifix. Miniature Scenery have done these lovely pieces of wooden furniture that I use in my hobby space. You might see there. Crazy video angle. Anyhow, thanks for watching.